Welcome to Radiant Mom Rising. Get ready to be inspired, empowered, and uplifted. I'm your host, Mary Dibble, and in each episode, we dive into amazing stories, insights, and conversations that help moms like you chase your dreams and embrace your worth. Let's rise and shine together. Hey, Radiant Mamas, and welcome back to Radiant Mom Rising. Before we dive into today's conversation, I want to share a little real-life context because it matters. At the time of recording this episode, both my guest, Robin Goad, and I were sick, and I almost rescheduled, so did she. Not because we didn't care, but because as moms, we're constantly navigating that inner question, do I push through or do I pause? And here's the truth I want to normalize. Sometimes the most self-honoring thing is rescheduling and resting, and sometimes it's showing up gently and perfectly and with grace. There is no one-size-fits-all answer. What matters is listening to yourself. I did end up rescheduling the rest of my calls that day because my body needed more care, but this conversation felt aligned to show up for, and I'm so glad we did it. Today's episode is a beautiful, honest dialogue about authenticity, owning your story, and finding your voice as a working mom, no matter what season you're in. Let's dive in. Welcome back. Thank you all for tuning in. As you can probably tell, full disclosure, I'm not feeling my best today. I have been struggling, battling. I don't even know what it is, if it's a cold, the flu, what. But this around the time of this recording, I have not been my best, so forgive me if my voice sounds a little weird, but you know what? Me and my special guest, Robin, today decided, even she's not feeling 100%, we were like, let's just show up anyways and see what comes from this. Sometimes these conversations like fill me up so much that it's just what I need to be re-energized. So here we are. Robin, thank you so much for being here today with me. I really appreciate you taking the time.
Thank you, Mary. And hey, it's what moms do, right? It's like, this is the life of a working mom, is that, you know what? You don't feel good. You're not 100%, but your job never stops.
Right?
You don't get a break. And so there's a little bit of that too. I thought, you know what? Maybe I should tell Mary I don't feel so great. And then I'm like, you know what? How many, as moms, that are, radiant, rising up moms, how many of us feel 100% every day? It doesn't matter. We have to still show up for our families, for our work. So it's getting real, which is my whole premise, is that I just want women, right, to be real. I want to create a space for women to be able to be real with one another. So what better way to start than us being real, that we both don't feel incredibly great.
Yes, but here we are still, because for me, like I told her, this fills me up. But also, like you say, I love that because as a mom, we don't get to slow down. My kids have been home all week, actually now going on 2 weeks because of all the snow we've had here in North Carolina. So it's just been like very interesting because, I work from home too. So it's like nothing stops for me.
That's
But
right.
I'm trucking along. I'm still like showing up, doing my journaling, my affirmations, and this, and I love it. So go ahead too and introduce yourself to the audience. Tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do.
Yeah, my name's Robin Goad. I have 4 grown children. I have 1 grandbaby that turns 1 years old this weekend.
Congrats.
And yeah, my husband is a retired Army officer, and I've been in corporate America for 30 years. I have been a working mom, some of those years a single working mom. And when I got into my 50s, I started noticing this trend in most circles I was in. And it was women talking about, gosh, if I just would have known blank. Mm-hmm. And it was everything from relationships to work and career advice. Now I'm in the menopause phase. So it was everything about health and finances. Being at this age in your life, you start really looking at retirement. And so I kept hearing women say, if I would have known, if I just would have known what I know now. And my daughter was pregnant with my first grandbaby. And she had the book, What to Expect When You're Expecting, of course, like every mom ever, like we all got. And I thought, The irony that we have a 400-page book for 9 months of our life telling us every little detail about what is about to happen, what is going to happen, how to deal with it. And so I coupled those two realities together, the whole I wish I would have known and the what to expect when you're expecting. And I thought, I want to write that book from a place of authenticity because I feel like in today's world, women are, I just feel for women that are in their 20s and 30s and 40s looking at social media, trying to think what's real, what's not real. And so I wrote the book, and it's mostly from a place of all the mistakes I made, because the best teacher, is oftentimes the mistakes. And if I'm encouraging women to be real and authentic and transparent with one another, I thought I have to be the example. And so my book is in three parts. The first part is about relationships. And that is, the relationship, like the family you were born into. What did you learn? What was the culture? What are things that maybe you need to unlearn? What are those lies that we believed as youth, young girls? What are some lies that maybe we held on to that we need to get rid of? And then part two of the book is about your career and your vocation, and a bunch of business stories and all that kind of stuff. And then part three in the book is about health, and it's emotional, spiritual, physical, financial, the whole package of health. And I just tell all the life stories of everything that I've learned, good, bad, ugly. And now I'm just trying to get out there and reach women that want to operate from a place of authenticity and multi-generational. I really want communities of multi-generational women that can because I just think, gosh, if I would have had a 50 something year old woman
Yeah.
that I could have had a real, transparent, authentic conversation with, what are some choices I might have made differently? You know,
Yeah.
and so anyway, that's what I'm doing.
I love it. I love it, Robin. This is exactly what this podcast is for because I want to reach like the younger generation and moms like now because I hear along the way, I see so many moms who are like, oh, maybe when my kids are older or maybe when things are and I'm in a better situation, whether it's financially or their life, doesn't feel chaotic, then I'll pursue this, and that. And it's like, no, I feel like the thing like one of the things that I wish I knew sooner too is knowing that there's no time like now to get started. There's so much that it takes to evolve and to even step into who you're meant to be. And there's so many skills that you have to learn along the way. There's so much failure, there's so much disappointment, there's just so much growth that comes when you choose to create a life that you love that I want people to understand like it takes starting now. It takes like there's no waiting until because then you'll always be waiting or it's never gonna happen. So I do value these kind of conversations because I do feel like this is exactly the mission I'm on is to help inspire people to believe in themselves and believe in what's possible because I know that things, aren't, rainbows and butterflies all the time. I know it's not meant to be like that, but if we don't start doing something towards it, we'll never get there. And I think we're just depriving the world like of our beautiful gifts that we're meant to help each other so that we all get to live fully and love our lives. So tell us a little bit about what your journey has looked like being someone who has, being a mom and working in the corporate world and how you've established being the powerhouse that you are today.
I don't think that I never thought there was any other option. One of the things that became clear to me in writing this book is that I went back and started thinking about my childhood, and some little girls play house. Some little girls are athletic and they play sports. I played business. It's so funny to me
Wow.
because I was thinking back in writing this book. I was thinking back. I'm the oldest grandchild in my family, my core, nuclear family. I'm the oldest grandchild, the only granddaughter for like 30 years. And I would have all my boy cousins sitting in my grandma's house, and we set up desks. And I would go, my grandma had adding machines. I don't know if you know what an adding machine is, but it's a keypad that makes this noise, and it's like secretaries used to type and it would go. And my grandma had it, and she wouldn't let us use the paper because the paper was too expensive, but she let us play with the adding machine. So anyway, I would make my boy cousins, I had 3 of them. I would make them set up desks, and I would walk around and ask them how much they sold that day. Tell me what they were doing. So I played business. And then my family owned a children's clothing manufacturing line. And I started working in that manufacturing facility when I was a little kid. I started going to markets. And so I have been around business my entire life. And so going to college, getting out and becoming a career woman was really never even a thought. I mean, that was just what I was going to do. And so so I did that. And it's been a great career. I said, corporate America has been very good for me, and I have been very good for it. And I think that is what I try to tell people is, whether you're an entrepreneur or whether you're working in corporate America, you really can be the CEO of your own career in corporate America. And corporate has been very good to me. I've traveled the world. I've met amazing people. I have amazing relationships all over the world. I've been trained, excellent training, but that was my primary focus for the last 30, years. And I say now, I did not intentionally parent. And I talk about how, different people have different parenting philosophies. My husband, who is my third husband, and I can go into that in just a minute, but my third husband, my forever husband, his parenting philosophy was to protect the children, protect the family. And because of my past childhood trauma, my parenting philosophy was survive. It was survival mode. And it was, the world is going to be tough on these kids, so I need to be tough. And so because that was my own experience, that's the kind of mental model I brought into being a mom. I was not a nurturing, gosh, I just think back about raising these kids. I was there's some moms like, put some dirt on it, you're fine, get back out there. Well, I was that mom. But I also, I wish that I had been, I wish I was operating in the feminine woman mother zone, but I wasn't. And I wasn't able to operate from that place because of my childhood trauma, because of former relationships that I was in where I had to operate in the masculine. I had to be the provider. I had to be that person. And so my kids, unfortunately, they got this I say we survived. You know what? That is what I talk about in the book, is that my kids were where they were supposed to be when they were supposed to be there. We got the homework done, we ate, we got lunches made. But I can tell you there were 20 years where I don't even think our television came on. I never remember an evening sitting down. I didn't even know sitting down was possible. Like sitting down at the end of the night. No, it was go, go, go. Now, I will tell you, while as horrible as that sounds, by the grace of God, my kids have turned out amazing. And so when moms, if you're a mom and you're operating in what I'm explaining and what I'm describing, just know that there are skills that your kids are getting from you that are really valuable. So when my kids went to college, they would call me and say, "Mom, this roommate of mine, he doesn't know how to do anything." And so, my kids became very self-reliant. They're very independent. And so, there's that thing that says the hardest thing to do is raise. You pour all your heart and soul into this kid, and your whole job is to raise them so that they don't need you anymore.
Oh.
Well, mine definitely don't need me. In fact, I'm like, "Hello, I'm still over here." But anyway, that is a little bit about my story.
Oh my God, no, it's it and you know what? Thank you for being so honest about that because parenting is by far for me one of the hardest things. Like it's I have one son who's about to be 18 and going off to college, and then I have a 4-year-old and a 6-year-old, and I have a 6-year-old daughter and then two sons. So it's like interesting to see how much I've grown and evolved and how different I'm parenting compared to the first one and then these two. And I feel like these are really important to have these kind of conversations and be real about because I mean, I don't feel like we do the best that we can. Like we only know what we know.
Right.
We have our own
Right.
conditioning and our own generational conditioning too that follows us that sometimes we don't even realize and until we're older. And so we need to have that grace that
Exactly.
like I said, see that you're because like I'm big on that as well. My son, I'm so proud to know that, at his age, he knows how to wash the dishes, mow the yard, do his own laundry, clean his own room, clean a bathroom. I mean, and he does it and he doesn't even talk back. I love that if I'm like, JJ, can you do this? Okay, mama. Okay. Like there's no like anything with him. He's so great. And that makes me feel comforted in knowing that when he leaves here, he's going to be able to take care of himself because at the end of the day, that is true. They're going to be adults. We have to prepare them for this world. And I'm working to, have that. For me, I feel like I'm working on having that balance, I guess you could say, or that structure of like being nurturing while also kind of showing them that, hey, you know what? Life can be tough. You're going to get hurt, but it's about how you respond. That's going to determine like the consequences and the reality that you endure afterwards because we can't control everything, we can't control everyone, and I'm working to be as honest and as open about that with them so they understand like we don't know what's meant for us, but it's we have control over us and how we see it and how we want to respond. And I'm trying to teach them. One of the things I didn't get taught was I grew up in a lot of negativity, and so I really am trying to put a lot of positivity, like especially in my daughter. I don't want her growing up being insecure, even though it's weird that I feel like we do our affirmations and I'm working on it, but I still see signs of the insecurity in her. And a part of me is like, okay, that's probably something within me that I don't even realize I'm still carrying, that she's seeing, which is why I feel like us working on us is the most important thing because we role model. They're always watching, right? So it's beautiful that you're willing to like share that truth of like how you see yourself and how you were, but also seeing how the positive of what that's done for your kids. And then it's never too late to also like build relationships in a different way. I feel like too. I mean, my mom's like my best friend, and yet when I was a teenager, I was a horrible teenager to her. But now we're like best friends, and I'm grateful because I grew up in a different way of seeing a single mom struggle and the few boyfriends she had, it's like she always had to take care of them. And so, and we got evicted when I was only 15 and living in homelessness and going from place to place to place. Like I see the core trauma that I have when it comes to money and my fear of like surviving and getting by. And so it's like even things like that, just recognizing and understanding that about myself helps me in those triggered states to understand where that's coming from. So again, it's just a matter of us realizing the realness of it all, and just really we're just working to navigate it, right? And it's amazing for people like you to share your stories and your experience to help others realize, like, you know, this is it's going to look different for you, but hey, this could help you have perspective or save you from certain things that would lead you down a different kind of road. So yeah, I would love to hear a little bit about you had they were talking, I was reading about your stuff and you were something about a 7 corporate rules that you have that help people go from invisible to influential. Can you tell us a little bit about like how you help women when it comes to like navigating a corporate life?
Yeah, well, first thing is, I did not realize what my unique
Mm,
superpower
mm,
was
mhm.
until I was in my 40s.
Oh,
And it
yeah.
came from my chief operating officer. I was the chief marketing officer for this AI startup company.
Oh,
He was the chief operating officer, and I had worked with him years before at Dell. And we were, in a startup, you're all around a table, everybody's working on everything.
yeah.
And he said something to me, and I want to say I was like in my mid 40s. And he said, Robin, you have got an uncanny ability to be able to sit down with a customer, an engineer,
Yeah.
and anybody, and you listen to what they're trying to do. And he said, I can immediately start telling that you start putting all these pieces together. I start problem solving. I start
Mhm.
thinking about who are all the different people in the ecosystem that are going to need this product or service or whatever. Or somebody tells me a problem and I start thinking of all the different ways to solve it. He said, and then you go do it. He said, generally, people that are really good strategically are not good at the execution. But you have got an uncanny ability to be able to think strategically, but also act and execute. And that is a very unique gift that generally requires two people, and you have it all in one person. And when you operate in your strengths and your gifts, you think that's how everybody is. You think that's how everybody thinks. You don't really realize that this is unique
Yeah.
and really valuable. And so what I like to first help people do is get to their superpower. What is the superpower? And it probably, if you think about, go look at your past performance reviews. Go listen. What do people come to you for advice for? That is probably your superpower because it's just how you naturally operate and it's the message that you're putting out into the world. And so people, will come to you for advice on a particular thing and you'll start to be like, man, I'm always the fix it person, or I'm always the organizer, or, whatever it might be. That is your superpower. So the first thing I like to help folks do is figure out what their superpower is and how does that translate into the workplace. So after we figure out what that is, how that translates into their job, then I start explaining how, especially in corporate America, there are rules for how it operates. And so those rules are things like never miss an opportunity in a meeting. That a meeting is actually your audition for the next role. Another thing I like to teach women is make a power map of your own internal organization. So you oftentimes make a power map for your customer. So if I'm in sales and I'm trying to sell something into a customer environment, I will make a power map of who's the decision maker, who has the budget, who are the key influencers, right? I map all of that out. Very rarely do you map that out within your organization. So there's the same power play going on in your organization just like there is at a customer. So, who are those people's names that are mentioned all the time? Who are the power brokers in the organization, and how do you make sure they know who you are? The next thing I like to do is say, build your narrative. Do not think that going to work, working hard, exceeding expectations, meeting your goals is what's going to get you ahead. That is not what is going to get you ahead. What is going to get you ahead is not what you do, it's what others know about what you do. And are they articulating your narrative? I'll tell you a story. I was at Dell once, and there were about 10 of us women, all A players, and we created an informal mutual admiration club. And this was women in engineering, women in operations, women in sales. And we said, here's what I want everybody to say about Robin. When Robin's name gets mentioned, This is what I want people to say about Robin Goad. So I told all these women what I wanted my narrative to be. And they all told me what they wanted their narrative to be. Do you know, in less than 1 year, every single one of us were promoted. And when I was promoted, my boss read back to me my narrative that I had fed to those other women, and they had said it so much in meetings that my own narrative got put back on me. It was beautiful, but let me tell you, that's the way it works. That is the way it works. So those are some examples, and that wasn't my idea. There was a woman in our group, and she was an engineer, and I think she graduated. Her undergrad was from Cornell, and her master's was from Northwestern. And she was very brilliant woman, like mechanical engineer, I think. And she told us about this experiment and how this that she had heard about this, how to win. And so we did it. And now here's the trick with that. You can't let any C players into that, you cannot falsely prop somebody up. They have to be doing the work, they have to be delivering the results, but that is only half of the battle. The other half of the battle is the narrative. And that's what we as women forget, is that I thought you go to work, you bust your butt, you exceed expectations, people will notice. They'll just notice and they'll just take care of you and they'll just promote you. No, you have to get your narrative out there.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, that makes sense because I've seen it in the workplace where it's like you can do all the right things too, and it's like they'll still find the things that you do wrong and point that out. And it's like, or sometimes they'll take advantage of that. Like if they notice that you're so good, I think I was always one of those people like who went above and beyond what I was worth, or what I was paid. And like you say, thought that that would be enough to have people notice me. But it's like, no, they just took advantage. Like, okay, she's going to do that and only get paid this. So, all right, let's just let her keep doing it and keep adding on to her plate.
Yes.
And so I've seen that. And I think that's very, especially the narrative part, that really is so important, not just even in the work life, in our own lives. It's like when they talk about the story, we tell ourselves that we have to change the narrative of our story and who we want to be and how we want to show up in life if we really want to see a change, and I think that's a very powerful message and a powerful example of how that works, like just even in the work
Oh,
field
yeah.
of like, letting people see who you want to be seen. This is why I do a lot of identity work, because I feel like that is the thing that so many of us struggle with. It's like we feel like we have to already have all the things or be the person already in order to receive all that. But it's like we have to work on literally embodying that identity of ourselves and taking intentional action through that identity of like, well, how would she decide, how would she show up, and allow ourselves to like become her, become who we're meant to be through taking action, even if it's messy. But we have to believe in that we are that versions of ourselves and allow ourselves to let go of the old when each time that we come to a new season of growth, and allow ourselves, because sometimes like the version of ourselves that get us to a certain point, great, that was great, it got us to this point, but now we're having to evolve even further, and that's a whole nother identity. And it's really important to have that support and to understand that, so that you're not bombarded now with these new challenges and this new, weight that you're carrying. Not weight, I wouldn't say, but the abundance that you'll carry that is for this next season and things like that. That may end up feeling like a weight if you don't go about it, in the most positive way. So yeah, this is a wonderful, wonderful examples. And I also really love the fact that you took these moments in your life to write this book. What was your experience like writing a book too? I've always had a dream of being an author someday myself, so I always love hearing about like your journey with writing a book. What was that like for you?
I didn't have a dream ever to write a book, but I
That's
was a journalist,
okay.
in my early days. And I'm a big journaler. I do my best thinking. I spend quiet time every morning, and I really am a big journaler. And so, and when I started a healing journey about 8 years ago. And during the last 5 years, I'll say I have really done a lot of work to go back and really figure out who I am, who I really am, not the facade. Because if you look on the outside of Rob, I mean, I look good, right? I mean, I've got an excellent career, for successful kids. I mean, nobody is homeless or addicted to drugs or alcohol, or
Yeah.
we look good on the outside, but I go back to that realness that I have been craving my whole life. And so through this healing journey that I've been on, it's been a ton of writing. And in February last year, so 1 year ago, I reached out to a publisher and I said, I've got 925 pages of writing that I have done just over the course. And I really thought what we were going to do was a book for each decade. So a book about your 20s, a book about your 30s, a book about your 40s. And they said, Robin, the way printing is done today, that'll be way too hard. So let's put it all in one book, but let's categorize it. It took us about a month to figure out how we actually wanted to organize everything. And that's where we came into part one is about relationships.
Yeah.
Part two is about your vocation and career and work. And part three is about health and all the things that financial, physical, spiritual, emotional. And that's how we ended up organizing it. But it was great having a publishing partner that could, we worked on it, I think 1 or 2 days a week for a couple hours in the morning. We would spend going over everything. It took us probably 2 months to get our thoughts organized, to get the book. And then we couldn't agree on a title. And they like to have a working title that you use the whole
Yeah.
time to kind of be your North Star. And it took us forever. And I was asleep. And I woke up at 3 o'clock in the morning with the title.
Oh my gosh. That's
Girl
so
by
fun.
Birth, Woman by Fire, the Get Real Guide to Becoming the Woman You Were Meant to Be. And I woke up at 3 o'clock in the morning. I knew every time that God wants to get my attention, he always wakes me up. He gives me an idea and he wakes me up at 3 o'clock in the morning. So I knew it was a divine message. So I got out my phone and I wrote it down and went back to sleep. And I texted it to my publisher the next day. And they said, oh, that's it. That's perfect. And we had been arguing and arguing. They didn't like what I said. I didn't like what they said. And this one, we all agreed and we moved forward from there.
I love
But
that.
it was great. It was also a lot. It was cathartic to write everything, to go back. My mom read the book in the last couple of weeks and she said, I don't know how you remembered all that stuff. And she said, honestly, I probably have blocked a lot of it out. And I said, yeah, I'm sure you did. Maybe you need to go on a healing journey.
Right. Oh my God, I love it. My mom's been on a healing journey and I love it. Like to see the change and how she's evolved since I've started my journey and now she's on it. Oh my God, it's beautiful. So I hope your mom does if she needs that. So
Yeah.
because I get it
Yeah.
because I mean, we think about our generational conditioning is like theirs. Woo! Some of the things that my mom went through, it's like I'm so grateful. Like first of all, that she didn't even allow that to, I mean, obviously, in some ways it did affect how she parented, but in many ways it didn't. Because some people will take that and end up being almost just like their parents in
Yeah.
that way, and she did the opposite. So, but like I said, it's beautiful to see other people. That's why I love this journey because not only has it changed me in ways that I never thought possible, but I love to help others because I just know what's possible. And I just want other people to see that for themselves and to help in any way that I can. And through these conversations, I just feel like there's so much evidence available now that shows like, we all have different things going on. Before we started recording, you were telling me, and I'd love for you to share it too on here, about your mentor lunch and how that led you to where you were in Austin.
Oh, when I changed careers? Okay. So
Yes.
I was going to be a reporter. My dream was to be Barbara Walters. I had wanted to be Barbara Walters since I was like, my mom said I started dressing up in her suits and pretending to be Barbara Walters when I was like second grade. And I worked at a TV station and it was not what I thought it would be. And I called one of my mentors. He was actually one of my professors. I called him and said, "Can I take you to a cup of coffee? I need to figure out what I'm going to do in my life because this newsroom is not it." And he said, "Yeah." So we go to have coffee. And he said, "You know what, Robin? Here's the deal. You are an excellent communicator." And he said, "Every business in America needs a great communicator that can tell their story. If I were you, I would either move to North Carolina, Charlotte or Raleigh, or Austin, Texas, because both of those communities are thriving and growing." This was in 1994.
Oh, yeah.
So I was like, well, I was born in Texas. I've got family in Texas. They're not in Austin, they're in North Texas, but they're close enough. If
Yeah.
emergency, they could come down. And so I loaded up my 1989 Honda Prelude and a U-Haul, and I had $1,100 to my
Oh,
name, and I moved to Austin. And that was 32 years ago.
yeah. I love that because you just hear so many stories like that. People who just up and just move and they just start over. And that's such a scary, thought even to think about like, starting anew and going somewhere completely different where you don't know anybody. But it's like, look at you and what you've created over that 30 years from making that one move. And how cool is it from a lunch with a mentor, open that door for you. And this is what I believe in: divine intervention, divine connections, divine timing, because if we allow ourselves to put ourselves out there and just do the things, like you just would be surprised like how just opportunities show up, without you having to put
Exactly.
we just think we have to do, but sometimes it's just allowing yourself to see what's available around you, and then choosing to take action. Or even, there's something like you say, you called somebody up because you're in a point where you're like, I need something clarity, and bam. I love stuff like that. So before we wrap up here, I'd love to know if someone was, listening and they're like, oh my God, I love this Robin. I want to learn more about her. I want to see where I can get her book. Where would you say is the best place for them to connect with you?
Yeah, the best place is my website, and it is no, the get real, the real Robin Goad.com. The real robingoad.com is my website. And I actually offer, there's a button on there that says Superpower, schedule a Superpower meeting. It's free. And I give 30 minutes. If anybody out there is wanting help trying to figure out what their superpower is, they can actually click that button and immediately get access to my calendar and book time with me. And I give that so that in case somebody out there, like other people have done for me, is they have spoken what they see as my superpower. And I feel like that is the first step in really owning who you are and the value that you bring and how you're going to show up is really understanding what that unique superpower is. So anyway, they can do that on LinkedIn, Robin Goad. On LinkedIn, they can find me. Facebook, Robin Goad. My Instagram is 50 favored and figuring it out.
I love
But
that.
all of those socials are also linked from my website. So my website is really the best place to get me. And
Absolutely.
Robin at therealrobingo.com is my email.
Awesome. And I'll make sure to include all of that in the links as well. So go click on there. I mean, I love that call that you offered. That's amazing. To know your superpower you're right, it is such a huge first step in really knowing where to go next in your life, whether
Mm-hmm.
it's your, business or your, corporate career. It's exactly a great starting point for you for sure. So I always love to open the floor to, is there any final piece of advice that you would like to share with listeners today?
give yourself grace. One of the things that I say in my book is don't judge your kids and don't judge yourself until your kids are 30.
I love that. Oh my gosh. I love that. You are awesome, Robin. I cannot thank you enough for coming and showing up. I know we both have not felt 100%, but I really enjoy these talks and I really appreciate you coming and taking the time. And I know that the work you're doing, the way you're helping women is incredible and it's going to grow and expand for you. And it's so needed in this world. There's so many people
Thank
who
you.
feel lost, who feel alone, who feel like the world is just too, the weight of the world that they carry is so much, but it's like this is why we have to come together and be here for each other. We women supporting women is such a powerful way to be because we don't have to do this alone. We don't have to carry this all by ourselves. Like we can, navigate this in a very authentic, real, and a wonderful way to where it's like no matter what comes, we'll know how to get through it because we're going to get stronger and
Exactly.
stronger as more we practice this stuff, the more we allow ourselves to be vulnerable, to trust others, to let ourselves be seen. So I really want to thank you for everything you're doing. And please, you guys, anyone listening, go grab her book. That sounds incredible of a read. I'll have to check it out myself for sure. And again, thank you so much for
Thank
being part
you.
of this.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
Of course.
What a meaningful conversation with Robin. Before we close, here are a few reflections I hope you carry with you. You are allowed to adjust without quitting. Grace and resilience can coexist. Owning your story gives you power, clarity, and confidence in every room you walk into. Your superpowers are often hidden inside your lived experiences, not your resume. Authenticity isn't a risk, it's a strength, especially for working moms. You don't need to do it all perfectly, you just need to do it honestly. If you want to learn more about Robin and her work, be sure to check out her links in the show notes. And Mama, thank you for being here. Thank you for choosing real conversations over polished perfection. If this episode resonated, please follow the podcast, share it with another mom, and leave a review. It truly helps this message reach the women who need it most. Until next time, keep trusting your inner voice, keep honoring your season, and keep rising in your own way. Much love.